Everyone. Hope you had a great reading week. I hope it was relaxing and you were able to catch up on some rest. And today we are back and we're doing Module 7, Week 7. And this module, we're talking about deficits in language and literacy. So we'll jump right in. In this course so far, we've talked about the development of language and literacy. We've talked about different theories involved and different types of literacy, among other things. So again, today we're going to talk about some deficits within language and literacy. In this brief lecture, I'm going to talk to you about some of the more common speech and language disorders and some disorders that affect literacy, more like reading as well. So some of the most common disorders affecting speech and language include apraxia of speech, dysarthria, autism, expressive language disorder, and receptive language disorder. There are many more disorders than the ones I just listed, but these are just some of the more common ones that we see with children. So first off, apraxia of speech, or AOS, as I will refer to it as. It's defined as a disorder which affects an individual's ability to translate conscious speech plans into motor plans. So when an individual has AOS, they may know what they want to say, but their brain is unable to send the proper message to the speech muscles to actually articulate it. A person with AOS may be able to write down their message, but they're unable to speak it. The cause of AOS is currently unknown, but some scientists suggest that it may be genetic. Next, we're going to discuss dysarthria. And so dysarthria is a disorder caused by muscle or nerve damage in the diaphragm, lips, or tongue. Some symptoms of this disorder include slurred or slowed speech, limited tongue, jaw, or lip movement, pitch changes in voice quality, and labored use of vocal cords. Dysarthria can begin prior to birth or develop afterward as a result of related medical conditions like muscular dystrophy or cerebral palsy. So next, autism. Autism spectrum disorder, or ASD, is a disorder characterized by differences or difficulties in social communication and interaction, a need or strong preference for predictability and routine, sensory processing differences, focused interests, and repetitive behaviors. Autism itself isn't characterized as a speech and language disorder, but difficulties with communication may arise when an individual has autism. And I'm sure, if you are working already or will be working in this field in the future, you have or will come into contact with many children who are on the autism spectrum. Some children with autism may also have apraxia of speech, or AOS, as we just discussed. They may also have muteness and echolalia, which is the involuntary repetition of another person's vocalizations. I mentioned before that I have two children who both have autism. Both are very different when it comes to their language and communication, so I can share a little bit about my personal experience. My oldest daughter, she had some delays in her speech when she was quite young, which prompted us to explore things further. When she progressed in her language development, we found that she often repeated phrases or chunks of language that she heard from TV shows. Sometimes they were parts of books or things that she had heard other people say. These instances seemed random initially, and then we found that she began to use them in moments that made a little bit more sense. So now she's in kindergarten. She's very articulate and has a huge vocabulary. From time to time, she will still access these language chunks. For example, sometimes when she's responding to me, she might say, "Yes, Mom, I replied." The "I replied" being something that she's heard from a story. My son, who is my middle child, he had age-appropriate language. We had no concerns with his language development or any other aspect of his development at all. But around the time that he turned 2, his language and communication started to disappear. He stopped waving, for example, and things that he used to say and used to, engage us in, he sort of stopped. So he used to name animals and their sounds. He was able to sing the alphabet. He could count to 10. He would wave, and he would play games, people games like peekaboo. Now he'll be 3 in a couple of weeks, and he currently only uses mama and dada on a regular basis and with intention as well. But there are some other words that pop in here or there at different times. He generally communicates by leading us to what he wants or with his hands. We're starting some intensive speech services now, so we're really excited to see how he continues to develop. So that's my experience. Two children that are very different, but both have the same diagnosis and the same level of autism as well. They both were diagnosed at level 2. So every child with autism is so different. Everyone varies, and not all have difficulties with communication. But especially since you are working with young children, that may be something that you are more likely to run into. Okay, next we'll jump into expressive language disorder. So, this may be characterized by difficulty coming up with the right words when speaking, difficulty joining appropriate words together in a sentence, having a small vocabulary, or using words incorrectly. These sound like common errors that may be made when a child is learning to speak, and they are. They are common errors. But what characterizes this as a disorder is when these common errors do not improve over time or are outside of the norm for the child's age. Then there's receptive language disorder, which is characterized by a child's difficulty understanding what is being communicated to them. They may seem to show poor attention in speech. They may not seem like they're not focused or they're not listening. But it's not necessarily that they're not paying attention. It's that they don't necessarily comprehend what is being said to them. Causes of language disorders may include hearing loss, cognitive disability, emotional disturbance, a lack of exposure to language in the environment, or brain injury. Often the cause of language difficulties or deficits is unknown. Treatment for these sorts of disorders varies across the disorder and across the child. However, early intervention is very much key. If you come across a child in your practice who seems to have difficulty communicating, or maybe seems like they're not necessarily listening or not really getting what it is that you're saying, it's important to share your concerns with the child's family so that they can access early intervention as well. Okay, now we're going to switch gears a little bit and just briefly discuss some commonly diagnosed literacy disorders. So these disorders that we're going to very briefly discuss include dyslexia, reading comprehension disorder, alexia, and hyperlexia. So first off, dyslexia, which I think most people have heard of dyslexia. It's defined as a learning disorder that involves difficulty reading due to problems identifying speech sounds and learning how they relate to letters and words, which is called decoding. Dyslexia is a result of individual differences in the areas of the brain that process language. Reading comprehension disorder is a difficulty in understanding written text, which can stem from weak decoding skills, limited vocabulary, inadequate background knowledge, or poor comprehension strategies. It is not a single condition, but a set of challenges that can also be linked to other issues like ADHD. Individuals with this disorder may struggle to recall details from a text, have trouble with homework requiring text analysis, and find reading for pleasure unenjoyable. Next, alexia. Alexia is an acquired reading disorder when a person loses the ability to read. This may occur due to injury to the brain or often in cases of stroke. Finally, there is hyperlexia, and I actually know a child with hyperlexia. She's super cool. She's the same age as my oldest daughter. She is 4, and she can read totally fluently. And from what I know about her experiences at home and in childcare, it really wasn't pushed upon her. She just was able to sort of piece together the patterns involved with reading. So it's pretty cool. Within hyperlexia, an individual generally has advanced reading skills, but oftentimes they have difficulty understanding what is being read or spoken aloud. So difficulties with reading comprehension. Okay, so that's a lot of information. So take your time, make some notes, maybe rewatch this if you feel like watching me talk some more. But if you have any questions about anything, please again feel free to email me. And thank you for watching. Enjoy your week, enjoy the content, and I'll see you soon.